part two. We're going to talk about animal parasites. This stuff might give you nightmares. um, a lot of these infect the intestines. We're going to go into specifics and everything. But I'm really hoping that reading this section will encourage people to continue washing their hands. Okay, so animal parasites are different from protozoan parasites because they're multicellular. Okay, so we talked about bacteria and everything. Bacteria are single celled, protozoans are single celled. These are, like we are, made up of, several or many cells. Okay, so that is what, they have in common with us. Okay. Um, so we're going to talk about roundworms, which can also be referred to as nematodes, and flatworms. Helminths is a term that is often used to denote any type of worm. Okay, so if we mention helminths in class, we're just referring to worms. Okay, so roundworms, aka nematodes, roundworms, adult roundworms can actually be from microscopic to a meter long, so they actually get pretty large. Pinworms, as you can see down here, they are common intestinal parasites of humans. So we ingest an egg, and then the egg hatches inside the small intestine, and then they feed on food being digested in the intestine. They mature and then they mate. The smaller males then die, and females actually move into the large intestine. About 5 weeks after hatching, the the female with ripe eggs crawl out of the anus and lay the eggs on the skin around the anus. So this is going to cause itching, and itching is one of the ways that it is trying to get you to spread it, because if you itch it, then you're going to move the eggs around on your fingers and then potentially touch some surface and allow the eggs a chance to spread somewhere else and infect someone else. So itching is the only symptom. That's important to know. One of the study guide questions for the final exam, we want you to know a lot of the details about pinworms. So make sure that you're paying attention to this section. The pinworm is especially common in children, which makes sense. And then treatment is via antiparasitic drugs. Hand washing can prevent infection and reinfection. So, if COVID wasn't a strong enough reason to frequently wash your hands, I hope this encourages you as well. The American hookworm is a 1 centimeter long blood feeding intestinal parasite. Like I said, most of these are in your intestines. The larvae burrow into the skin, typically the foot, right, from moist soil, and they migrate from there to the small intestine. The adults in the intestines use their jagged mouths to penetrate the wall of the intestine to feed on blood. Eggs exit with the feces and mature into larvae in moist, warm soil. So, don't walk around in warm, moist soil barefoot. If you have a large number of hookworms, you can have abdominal pain, diarrhea, lethargy, and anemia. In the United States, it's the most common in the southeast. And then treatment is with antiparasitic drugs. Like I said, try to avoid walking around in moist, warm soil with bare feet. The pigworm gets up to 14 inches long. Again, it's an intestinal parasite. So it feeds on the digested food in the intestine. If the eggs are consumed, they hatch in the intestine. The microscopic larvae burrow through the intestinal wall and travel through the bloodstream to the lungs, where they emerge into the alveoli. So the alveoli is where we have gas exchange. It is the very, very bottom of your respiratory tree. If you want to think about like your trachea and your bronchi and bronchioles and everything like a tree, it's the very, very tips of the tree where the gas exchange actually occurs. They mature there for 3 weeks, and then they get coughed up and swallowed. They enter the small intestine where they feed on digested food and grow. And they can live there for about a year. So it's a pretty long time that they're there. About 1 in every 8 people on Earth have this infection. It's pretty crazy to think about that. However, it's usually asymptomatic. I like how the notes in the book say, unless you consider the notable event of passing a 14-inch worm when it dies a symptom, I think I would be terrified. Like I said, this lecture, it may give you nightmares, so I'm sorry about that. Um, anyway, so if someone has a large number of pig roundworms, the symptoms can include abdominal pain, fever, and intestinal ulcers. Rarely the pig roundworm will enter and obstruct the bile duct, and treatment is via antiparasitic drugs. Okay, so flatworms, again, if this picture doesn't give you nightmares, that's pretty crazy. So flatworms are usually flat in one dimension. So that if you lay them on a table, they're wider than they are tall, so they're flat. Um, Parasitic flatworms that are somewhat oval shaped and not particularly long are called flukes. So your manual gives you the example of the Chinese liver fluke. Tapeworms are flatworms that have very strange, that are very, very strange parasites living in vertebral intestines. I hope you're recognizing a theme here. They have no digestive tract. They actually absorb through the surface of their body. Okay. Adults of these parasites have a modified front end with suckers and/or hooks called scolex. It uses this to attach to the inner wall of the intestine and allow its long ribbon-shaped body to trail behind it. So it's going to facilitate some movement there. We're going to skip down to the pork tapeworm. And this actually makes me glad that I don't eat pork. So the pork tapeworm is a very common intestinal parasite in humans. It's the most frequent tapeworm seen in North America. It lives in the muscle and nervous system tissue of pigs. After a pig ingests the egg, it hatches in the small intestine, and the larva moves to the muscle and nervous tissue. If a human eats one of these larvae in undercooked pork, the larvae become an adult tapeworm, eventually reaching 3 meters long in the intestine. So, it's kind of horrifying. Infection is usually asymptomatic, but if you have a bunch of them, you're going to have abdominal pain, weight loss, intestinal ulceration, and nausea. It's treated with antiparasitic medications. And then I like how your lab manual says that it's followed by a very memorable bowel movement because the adults reach 3 meters long. That is insanely large. Okay. And then the incidental consumption of the eggs of the pork tapeworm, it can lead to symptoms such as confusion, brain swelling, seizures, headaches, or stroke. It can cause death. Treatment involves antiparasitic drugs with the brain or spinal cord surgery. So I hope that you're seeing that there's a common theme in how we are treating all of these, a common theme in where all of these are, where all of these are infecting. Um, and you are going to be doing your lab homework. You're going to be looking at a jar of pig roundworms. I'm going to post this. And then there's going to be some other slides of worms that you're going to be looking at. Excuse me. And you're going to record that information via sketch in your homework assignment. As for the identifying enteric parasites, we did not do an unknown patient. You can see if you turn to the last page of the lab, um, the different eggs that, different roundworm and flatworm eggs that we might have been able to use to identify what our patient is infected with, but we weren't able to actually get a good slide for this. So during this part of your lab homework, what I want you to do is just write NA, and I obviously won't take any points off for this because it's not an experiment that we're actually going to do. Uh, and I'll know who actually watched the video before attempting the homework because, if you're watching the video right now, then you know that we're not going to be doing that question. Okay. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful. And I am actually posting the study guide for the final exam very, very soon. It is harder than the other exams, so I'm giving you almost a month to study for this exam. Please don't wait until the very last minute to actually work on the study guide. And contact me with any questions that you have. It is a cumulative final, and it definitely tests the like the down and dirty stuff that we did, with like gram staining and catalase test and everything. So you're really going to have to be on your A game for this exam. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to me. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. All right. Good luck.